everyone, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Rick Henry in Columbia, Kevin Bilodeau chilling down there in Charleston. Kevin, how are you?
So excited. I mean, talking season is officially here. ACC Media Day continuing today, and Clemson getting their shot to have their opportunity in front of all of our peers.
Yeah, the Tigers looking to bounce back from a 7-6 year. It's not that long ago where they were contending for national championships every season. But Dabo Swinney has added some new faces to the coaching staff. And our folks from Fox Carolina in Greenville, Carmine, and is it Carolina Day or Ella with him? It is Caroline with Carmine. And here's their report from Charlotte and the ACC kickoff on the Clemson Tigers.
Very exciting, lots of talking here for the Clemson Tigers, led, of course, by the 9-time conference champ, 2-time national champ head coach Dabo Swinney, entering his 18th full season as the head coach, and he's brought 3 stars along with him, the all-conference defensive stoppers, Sammy Brown at linebacker, and also Will Held at defensive end, along with senior tight end Olsen Pat Henry. But also Caroline making headlines, who's not here, and that is not a quarterback. For the first time since 2019, Clemson not bringing a quarterback here to ACC kickoff, and some interesting rumblings because of that, but Dabo says it's not too big of a deal.
He said it's not a big deal when we spoke with the team on Tuesday, but we also learned on Tuesday that there's a little bit of a quarterback competition still going on. It seems like Vizina is going to be the clear number 1 guy at this present moment. Dabo said that at the end of the spring, but also true freshman Tate Reynolds has been pushing him a little bit. That was one of our main stories on Tuesday that we brought you right here on Palmetto Sports, but also we spoke with tight end Olsen Pat Henry just a little bit ago, one-on-one, where I asked him the same thing because, he's one of the guys that's out there catching passes, so he probably has a little bit of a different perspective from all of us that have just been watching, and he basically echoed the same thing that Dabo Swinney said, just saying that, CV, that's what they call him, that's Vizina's nickname. You'll probably hear us say that quite a bit, but he's proved that he's the guy, and so it's going to be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. We're still about a month away from the season, still a few weeks away from fall camp as well. So this ACC kickoff is also kind of an opportunity for us to talk a little football, but also talk a little not football with some of these guys. As Carmine mentioned, Sammy Brown is also here, and he is one of the first Tigers, actually the first Tiger in almost 15 years to be both an All-American on the field and academically. So I asked him a little bit about that and how he makes it all work and how it all kind of plays off of each other in all areas of his life.
Coach Swinney says how you do anything is how you do everything. So I think, taking pride in what I do off the field is just as important as what I do on the field. And, I have aspirations for after football. So I think, applying myself to what I do in the classroom is very important.
Well, Clemson is talking a little bit later on this afternoon, so we'll hear a little bit more from those guys later on today, but we also heard from ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips yesterday when I was here in Charlotte. A lot of interesting kind of broader college football topics that were talked about yesterday. Had a couple takeaways about college football playoff expansion, a new tiebreaker rule that's going to go on to determine which teams will be playing in the ACC championship game later on this year. He also talked a little bit about the tampering situation between Clemson and Ole Miss, and former Tiger linebacker Luke Farrelly. You can find a lot of that stuff over on our website on foxcarolina.com. We're going to have a full day of stuff going on here, Carmine. It's going to be fun.
Yes, lots of talking from the Tigers and us talking about them talking, so hopefully you're listening to all of our content on air and online in Charlotte. For Palmetto Sports and for Caroline Soro, I'm Carmine Jamay.
All right, nice report there from our upstate colleagues. But Kevin, what do you think about this whole quarterback thing? They're not bringing a quarterback to the ACC kickoff. And one thing that tells me, if you're not hearing coaches or teammates really just gushing about a quarterback, then someone is not really standing out in practice. I reflect back to Deshaun Watson. He didn't start at the beginning of his freshman season, but he got into a game early against Georgia, was throwing completions in the tight windows, and I'm looking at him going, hey, this guy is a freshman. And then Trevor Lawrence, to hear the coaches talk about him during the season or the preseason, and finally when he got his chance to start, and you saw why. And until we start hearing that about one of these Clemson quarterbacks, I'm just shaking my head and like, okay, what do they really have at that position?
Yeah, Rick, I remember the Trevor Lawrence situation pretty vividly because I was at the game at Georgia Tech down in Atlanta when Kelly Bryant got the start. I believe it was the 4th game of the season. Bryant got the start. The Tigers offense wasn't really doing much at that point. They were winning their games, but didn't look spectacular. Trevor Lawrence had been kind of coming in and out of games, getting a series here and there. But they kind of gave him the car keys in the second half of that Georgia Tech game, and you could see things really open up. And, even though there was no announcement right after the game that they were going to make a change, everyone on the sideline kind of knew something's coming. And, if not, he's going to be the starter. He's going to be certainly getting a lot more playing time going forward. So that's what I remember from that situation. But as far as taking a quarterback to media day, I could care less. This is more of an opportunity for a team to bring their seniors and their upperclassmen and let them get a little bit of attention. So if they don't want to bring a quarterback, that's fine. I am more interested in the fact that it does look like this is not a done deal. Dabo Swinney made it seem like Chris Vezina being the starter going forward was set in stone when they finished up with spring ball. And now maybe not so much. And, if you're at this point of the season and you don't know who your quarterback is, I can't imagine that's a good thing, Rick. There haven't been a whole lot of teams who go into a season with a quarterback controversy or even quarterback questions who come through and go all the way to a conference championship.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Kevin, because I think most coaches would like to have that question answered before you start your preseason camp. And the fact that he doesn't means that they're still going to be searching and looking, waiting for someone to rise to the top. And until that happens, again, you're just going to have that question mark on that spot in the roster. What will Clemson have at quarterback? And if they don't have someone who they think they can really rely on or that they're confident, hey, this is the guy who can lead us to the promised land, being ACC championship contention, get to the playoffs, then it could be a long year for Clemson.
Yeah, Rick, it's not just the play on the field. It's everything that happens off the field, too. We've talked earlier this week about the leadership we expect to see from a quarterback. But if there are questions about who's going to be starting under center once the season gets going, that is all we are going to be talking about from the time they take their first practice in early August until they kick off later in the month of August. We're going to be asking every day, which of the two quarterbacks look better today? Which guy got reps with the first team? And that's going to wear down not only on those guys, but on the rest of that offense. And, every question they're going to get is going to be revolving around who starts at quarterback in that first game or who's named the starting quarterback for that first game. And that can be draining on a team, especially in the preseason, especially when, this is a team that's hoping to turn things around after a rough season last year.
Especially when you go into the season without a quarterback that has proven that they can do it, which is win consistently, play consistently, because the most popular guy on the team will be the backup quarterback, especially if the guy deemed the starter at the beginning of the season struggles just a little bit. How patient will the fans be? And you don't want that rumbling in the locker room on the sideline, so to speak, like, hey, why are we sticking with this guy when this other dude has looked pretty good in practice? So, yeah, you could have yourself quite a mess there. All right. Good talk there on Clemson football. We're going to call our first time out and be right back with much more on Palmetto Sports Daily.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We're continuing our talk about Clemson as the Tigers up in Charlotte for ACC Media Day today. We talked about the offense a little early on. Now we focus on the defense. And this is a side of the ball, Rick, that a lot of question marks as well because they didn't perform up to their standard and the expectations we had of them last year because of all the talent they had. And then we saw, how many of those guys got taken in the NFL draft. And for that number of guys to be taken in the draft and not to perform on the field in their final year with Clemson raises a lot of questions. Will Helt is up in Charlotte with our Palmetto Sports crew. They got a chance to talk with him one-on-one this afternoon.
Here with the big man, the all-conference defensive end, Will Held. Now, Will, you had a very successful year one with the Tigers, coming from Purdue, an all-conference season, like I mentioned. What have you told, though, the double-digit transfers now coming in, Clemson's biggest transfer portal class, advice to become a Clemson man right away, just like you did?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a little bit different last year, just me and a couple other guys coming through, now 10, 12 guys transferring in. But yeah, I'm excited about those guys coming in. I think we got a lot of talent from them. I'm excited about what they bring to the table.
And I know you had a big relationship and a great bond with Cade Klubnik, the 3-year starter, 2-time ACC champ at quarterback. Shared that great moment coming off the Pinstripe Bowl field about his leadership, and you guys had a great bond. What has it been like with Christopher Vizina now taking over that QB1? Different leadership style, and how would you describe what he's brought?
Yeah, I think he stepped up in a big way into that leadership role. I mean, he's been great as long as I've been here. He's worked his tail off, so excited for him moving forward.
And last one for you, Will. The LSU, the Death Valley against Death Valley. College game day is going to be at LSU. Lane Kiffin's first game as the head coach there. What have you told guys managing the emotions and also letting the emotions take over and having excitement for that big-time matchup, game one?
Yeah, I think just not to overcomplicate it, enjoy it, take it all in, but not let it get to you too much, but just go out there and have fun. It's just football at the end of the day, have fun.
Same mentality for Media Day. Go out there and have fun. Will, thanks for the time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, for Will Held, I'm Carmine Jame for Palmetto Sports.
All right, thanks so much, Carmine. And Rick, I want to talk to you a little bit about this defense as well. We heard Tom Allen on Tuesday talk about, and really throughout the whole offseason, say that communication was one of the big problems they had with that Tigers defense last year, despite the enormous amount of talent they had on that side of the ball. What do you see they have to change communication-wise to make sure that doesn't happen again this year?
Yeah, Kevin, it was real puzzling watching that Clemson defense last year, because ever since 1980, when the Tigers were keeping guys like George Rogers and Herschel Walker out of the end zone, those guys who went on to be Heisman Trophy winners did not score one touchdown against that Clemson defense there in the early 80s. What I want to see, if communication is the problem, is there too much communication? Do they need to make things simpler? Because watching that Clemson defense last year, Kevin, it's like, where is the aggression? Why are people out of position? How come they can't get any pressure on the quarterback? How come receivers are wide open sometimes down the field? So if it is communication, are they having problem relaying messages from the coaching staff to the guys on the field? Or does communication break down on the field between the players? Whatever, get it fixed and return to the Clemson of old, because what we saw last year, I'm like, no wonder they're struggling, and especially at home, Kevin, when the Tigers were getting pushed around at home by teams like Syracuse.
Yeah, and it's baffling to watch because, like we said, they went into last season. We knew there was a ton of talent on that side of the ball. We see him underperform this whole time. And then, like I mentioned, still a bunch of guys going early and often in that NFL draft. So we know the talent was there. I don't know if this is a situation where Tom Allen comes in and these guys just aren't used to him and the plan he sets up, or if they've got to make communication a little bit easier, maybe make things a little bit simpler going forward. But just the way they performed last year is not going to cut it. And despite the fact they had all that talent, this group might not be as talented that's set to start on defense this year, but they've got to step it up a little bit, or else we're going to be talking about a Clemson team around the 500 mark again.
Yeah, again, that was real puzzling. You mentioned all that talent and the guys taken in the draft, but watching the team last year, Kevin, I'm going, man, it looks like other teams have more talent. That's because guys on the Clemson side were not making plays. So why? Again, if it's communication, get that straightened out, because, hey, if communication was the problem and they would have been able to fix that last season, then they would have been up in double-digit wins again, easily.
Yeah, no doubt. As far as Coastal Carolina, they held their media day on Wednesday down in Louisiana, Sunbelt Media Day. And the first one for new Coastal Carolina head coach Ryan Beard. He got a chance to go in front of the media for the first time since he's been named the head coach, replacing Tim Beck, who was let go after just a few seasons in Conway. And Ryan Beard brings a lot of excitement to this team. Of course, anytime there's a new head coach, there's a lot of optimism and hope and excitement going forward. But with Ryan Beard, he brings in an offensive scheme that puts up a lot of points at Southeast Missouri State. So everyone hoping that's going to transfer over here with Coastal Carolina for this upcoming season. And he said yesterday he's expecting a lot of electric things out of both sides of the ball this year.
So we're going to have a quality brand of football and offense. We're going to try to light the scoreboard up. We're going to be highly effective under center, in the gun, doing all those things, using the tight ends. I know that's been a question amongst people. Do you use the tight ends? Well, your answer is yes. On defense, we're going to fly around, hit people, apply pressure when needed, and make sure we do a good job of forcing people into advantage situations. We have a saying, out hit, out hustle. It's not just, what you put on a wall. It's not just what the players say. It's truly what we believe. It's the relentless pursuit of excellence in every single thing that you do. And you can see it showing up on a day-to-day basis within the walls at Coastal Carolina.
Coastal picked to finish 5th in the preseason poll from the Sun Belt that was released back on Monday. And Rick, we mentioned it yesterday, but still so many questions because we just don't know this roster. I think it's about 90% of this roster is brand new from last season. And, after a disappointing season for Coastal last year, that makes a lot of sense, especially when you're bringing a new head coach who's going to bring in a lot of his guys as Ryan Beard did. So it's really hard to get a sense of what we should expect from this team this year.
Right, and this new era of college football, I think every coach goes into the preseason, goes into a new season wondering what they really have because you lose so many people, you have new guys coming in, you don't get a chance to scrimmage against another team. You're just practicing against yourself. So is my offense looking good because they're good or the defense is bad and vice versa? Okay, now, Kevin, I've got to know. We're wondering what's going to excite the Coastal Carolina fans. Are they going to continue to have free concessions? That gets everyone excited.
That certainly gets me excited. So hopefully, it would be foolish to go back on that now. They got so much great attention from that last year and did a great job of bringing people in. So hopefully they're going to continue that in Conway this season. We got more to talk about here on Palmetto Sports Daily coming up after the break.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We had some football conversation in our first two segments. Right now we're going to talk college basketball. We had been hearing some things that there could be some news coming out about Gamecock women's basketball backup point guard Maddy McDaniel, and today we got that news, Kevin. She is stepping away from the team to focus on herself. Now, McDaniel, she's a junior who played in 64 career games with one start, and she announced her move today on social media. Quote, "Every athlete knows that mental strength is as valuable as their physical strength. It just doesn't announce itself in the same way when it needs attention. It doesn't feel like an ankle sprain or a bruise. It's harder to put your finger on. Still, it's time for me to acknowledge it. I've tried to just keep going, but right now, I'm not giving my coaches, my teammates, and the fans the version of myself that they deserve. So I have decided to step away from the team to focus on my mental and emotional well-being to get back to my best self on all levels," end quote. Now, head coach Don Staley also posted a statement. "If we see anyone in our program going through something, we give them the space and the grace to work through it. When they embrace that, it may take more than that. We embrace that too. Maddy's decision is a difficult one for a young person to make, and I'm glad she felt our program was a safe place for her to make it." Now, Kevin, I applaud Maddy McDaniel for coming forward and telling us that she's having some troubles mentally and emotionally. Step away from the team, focus on herself. Because, Kevin, I mean, young folks, non-athletes, just regular teens, young people in their 20s, I think it's so much tougher for them now when things aren't going well, especially in this era of social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I'm glad she had the wherewithal to make this move and step away for now. And kudos to Dawn Staley and the South Carolina program for how they handle this. The one thing I want to mention is, this is a couple of players now we've seen take this step back from the South Carolina program for mental health reasons. Joyce Edwards, or not Joyce Edwards, I'm sorry, Ashlyn Watkins did the same thing a couple of years ago. So I'm wondering, is this more just a coincidence, and it's something that playing in this kind of pressure situation day in and day out is tough for them, or is it something that you think is within the South Carolina program that's just causing these kids to get worn out a little bit?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the South Carolina program. It's just, but you're right. Any college athlete playing in a high-profile program, I mean, look, all the games are like televised. There's so much attention on social media, and the expectations to win now and win a lot. I can see where it does get to you, and maybe sometime you have to call a timeout and say, hey, I need to focus on myself so I can come back and help the team. All right, we're going to take our final timeout, and we'll be right back to wrap up the show. All right, before we go, a very important programming note. Now, following our show tonight is going to be the premiere showing of a show about a high school football team here in South Carolina, underappreciated, a Lower Richland football story. It documents their 2025 season when they had to face several challenges like limited resources and just the problems you go through being one of the schools that hasn't had a whole lot of success. So it gives you a good look, Kevin, behind the scenes, practices, and the team working out in the spring to get ready for the fall. I think the folks will enjoy it. It's going to be a 6-parter. First part is tonight at 7. The last showing, August 20th, again, right here on Palmetto Sports and Entertainment, 7 o'clock for 6 straight Thursdays. Okay, that's going to wrap up our show, and we will see you tomorrow.